How you doing, guys? I am feeling a little bit better. I just got done watching the Minnesota-Illinois game, and so I'm going to give you part one of my Indiana-Minnesota preview. They do play Saturday, not Friday, in Assembly Hall, Bloomington. One thing I noticed, well, the number one thing Indiana needs to do, number one thing they need to focus on is keep Minnesota off the offensive glass. Minnesota, I think, is ranked fourth in offensive rebounds, differentials. So I think Indiana really needs to keep them off the offensive glass. Something that should be easier to do in Bloomington than it would be in Minnesota. Like I said, getting rebounds on the road in the Big Ten is really tough. I mean, you can just see it when you play on the road. Your rebounds go down, and so if it was in Minnesota, I'd be really worried. But I'm not really. IU does have to watch Coleman, a Minnesota guy who scored like a career high 29 points today against Illinois. Minnesota, they were extending their defense out quite a bit. They can't do that against IU. There's no way. I mean, because of Zell. I mean, if they do come out extending the defense, what IU needs to do is definitely get good ball movement, get into Zell. Get Zell a lot of touches early on, and that will cause them to collapse their defense, and they'll be double teaming Zell. If they don't double team Zell, it's just not a smart move. There's no way they could extend their defense out against IU like they did against Illinois today. No way. So I do think the little baseline. I do think it's important for Indiana to get Sheehy along the baseline and Zell. I think Indiana's going to be in good shape. I don't think it's going to be real easy, but I think Indiana will win comfortably. I may be wrong, but I just feel like Indiana's going to be just fine. Indiana, I would love. Now, what Indiana really needs to do, on top of all these other things, is they need to get in the transition. And again, I think it'd be easier done in Bloomington than it would be at Minnesota. If Indiana runs against Minnesota and extends that offense, Minnesota don't have a chance. I don't think. So Indiana needs to get the transition game going if possible. But like I said, if they don't press like I want to, like they should be. It's tough to get the transition going. If they don't press, they need to push the ball up the court fast, get it up fast, and get that transition game going. But I think Minnesota, they will play in a zone defense against Illinois, and it was effective. I think they did a really good job keeping Illinois from penetrating. you know, if they get in a situation like, well, Minnesota's doing a good job keeping them from penetrating, I think Indiana will need to get good ball movement to get it in them. But Indiana, the thing is, Indiana should be okay. They're excellent at drawing fouls. I think they draw fouls more than anybody in the country. But they can't be timid with the basketball. They have to attack the basket. You know, they have to drive that paint. They have to get good dribble penetration. They do that, they'll draw fouls. I mean, if Minnesota tries to stop the penetration by IU, what IU needs to do is get good ball movement, attack the basket. That's just all there was to it. And Indiana has to be really careful. And this is something that does console me with this Minnesota team because of their size. They have to stop Minnesota from penetrating. They have to have good defense in the front court. And that's all season long in the Big Ten. But Minnesota, I've really been concerned about their size. And Indiana really needs to do a good job. Zeller needs to come out. Okay, he needs to come out and stop the penetration. He has to do a good job at doing that. He hasn't done a good job of doing that in some games, but he definitely has to do it against Minnesota. Another thing, Minnesota has 3 players average a double figure. Indiana has 4, maybe 5, I think. Indiana's much more balanced. We've got a deeper bench. And like I said, Indiana will probably do a good job drawing fouls for Minnesota. They do that. Minnesota could get in foul trouble, and you know they'd have to go to their bench. So I mean, I think Indiana. I don't like to use point totals, honestly, but I'm going to say I expect them to win by 10. But I don't like using point totals. It's just kind of a fun thing for me to do. But as a coach, I would never, ever use point totals. But I'll say Indiana should win between 8 to 10 points. But there you have it. Tomorrow will be part 2 of the preview. I'll get a little bit more into the statistics. I think overall, well, Indiana scores a lot more. They're still leading the country in points per game. And Indiana, you know, when it comes to rebounding, overall, Indiana's beating Minnesota. So, but anyway, tomorrow I'll dig a little bit deeper into the statistics, and I'll probably watch this Minnesota-Illinois game again. Until then, subscribe, like my video, subscribe to my channel, and go IU. Peace.
Your daddy, yeah, your school's coming up short. What? Bilbo Baggins, I know you wish you had it, but you ain't though.